A US federal court has approved the surrender of the files on the storming of the Capitol. According to court documents released on Tuesday, the documents may be handed over to a parliamentary committee of inquiry in Congress. Former President Donald Trump, whose supporters stormed the Capitol in January, had sued against the release of the documents. But the court believes that the public interest requires that the legislature and executive both share a desire to investigate the events that occurred before and on January 6th, said federal judge Tanya Chutkan in a statement that has been published by several US media. It must be prevented that such events ever repeat themselves. Trump's stance that he can override the express will of the executive is based on the assumption that his executive powers are lifelong, said Chutkan in the 39-page statement. But presidents are not kings. The plaintiff is not president. Trump had invoked the so-called executive privilege in his lawsuit against the surrender. This allows a president to keep certain documents secret. Specifically, he is resisting the handover of more than 770 archive pages to the House of Representatives, which include records of his former Chief of Staff Marc Meadows, his former advisor Stephen Miller, and the former deputy legal advisor Patrick Philbin. Trump also wants to block the publication of the so-called daily diary of the White House, a record of his activities, trips, briefings, and phone calls. Other documents Trump wants to withhold from MPs include memos to his former press secretary Kayleigh McEnany, a handwritten note on the events on January 6th, and a draft of his speech at a rally before the Capitol storming. The Committee of Inquiry called McEnany, Miller, and 8 other former Trump employees as witnesses on Tuesday. The Committee of Inquiry wants to find out every detail about what was going on in the White House on January 6th and in the days before, said Committee Chairman Benny Thompson. And we need to know exactly what role the former president and his staff played in efforts to stop the vote counting and whether they were in contact with anyone outside the White House who was trying to overturn the outcome of the election. The witnesses summoned would likely have relevant information on the matter. Several US media reported that Trump's lawyers are already preparing an appeal. Trump spokesman Taylor Budowich said Trump would continue to defend the Constitution and the presidency. The question of executive privilege is intended to be decided by the appellate courts. Trump does not recognize his election defeat last November against Joe Biden to this day. He repeated his completely unsubstantiated accusations of massive electoral fraud in front of supporters in Washington on January 6th, when Congress wanted to certify Biden's election victory. Trump called on his listeners to march to the Capitol and fight the hell out of it. Hundreds of radical Trump supporters stormed the Parliament building as a result. 5 people were killed in the course of the violence. The House of Representatives immediately initiated impeachment proceedings against Trump. In the impeachment process in the Senate, however, the 2/3 majority required for a conviction was not achieved. The House of Representatives then set up the Committee of Inquiry to clarify the background to the storming of the Capitol. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.